Okay, we are recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Mind Body Wellness sessions. I am Stephanie Karlovits from Epic Fitness here in Ottawa, and I am joined today with my co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Tracie Lee. I'm a registered psychotherapist from the Center for Interpersonal Relationships, also in Ottawa.
So we're going to be discussing today some really awesome topics and really real life topics. Tracie and I both work with, well, Tracie works with patients. I call my people clients. And things that we are noticing around this time, whether it's, because of COVID or because of just regular life, obviously the integration and wellness between mind and body are just really so important. And so today we're going to be talking about a topic that we hear a lot about and something that we see a lot within our practices. And it's about the integration of psychological and physical well-being together. So what we have discussed, Tracie and I have talked about how there's a camp of people that are more maybe psychologically inclined when it comes to well-being, where they regularly engage in therapy or emotional well-being practices or meditation. And on my side, I definitely have a clientele that wants to run to feel good and wants to work out and wants to lift heavy weights when things are not necessarily feeling good in their mind. So how do we incorporate these two things together and make us more well-rounded? So Tracie, on your side, what are you seeing with patients right now, and what are your recommendations for those that maybe aren't feeling very good right now? What are you typically seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and also a really interesting topic in terms of integrating the physical and psychological aspects of well-being. I'm going to just speak really generally about two kind of broad categories that I see in terms of coping style. One being those that tend to prefer more doing forms of coping, and others that prefer more being forms of coping. And in terms of the doing side of things, it can be really a powerful emotional regulation strategy to be really active, to engage in a lot of movement. We know that really helps to regulate emotional arousal by discharging pent up emotional energy, which can lead to a really calming effect and restore one's emotional equilibrium. So this is a really potent strategy, especially for those of us who are perhaps a little bit more high strung, who might be more easily activated or stressed out, or who have anxiety, because it just helps to discharge some of that tension. However, one drawback from this is that we might lean towards avoidance coping, actually, where we actually don't address the underlying issues at play that are leading to our distress. On the other side of things, which I mentioned earlier, the being form of coping, there are some people who are really introspective. They really like sitting with their internal experience. They might be more inclined to meditate or to go to therapy. And while this is also a strength in terms of being able to gain insight and to kind of verbalize what's going on internally, it's also important to remember that the mind can be kind of endlessly analyzed and uncovered. And sometimes change requires action, and it can be actually empowering to shift out of certain states through activity as well, and lead to a sense of greater agency too.
Oh my God, 100%. As you're talking, I'm literally thinking about particular clients that have come into the gym environment and have sat me down and said, listen, I'm not a gym person. I don't want to hurt in my body, and I've had clients, show up to their personal training sessions and want to talk. They want to talk about their day. They want to, can we just stretch? Can we just sit down and chat? And so it's so funny. And what I try to do and what my team does is, give people the awareness to know that they are more psychologically inclined when it comes to processing their feelings, and that another great angle to take that the body responds well to and the mind responds well to is that activity, that they feel better if we do a workout. We don't have to necessarily verbalize it or use language. There's another way, there's a body language that we can communicate through and to process through hormones and stress hormones in the body and releasing that. I love what you said about
Mm-hmm.
discharging. It's so true. That's really like that endorphin rush that people feel when they do a workout, where they didn't need
Mm,
to analyze it or think about it. They just did.
totally.
Yeah,
And I think as a society and culture, we tend to place high value on verbalizing our experiences. And you're right that
totally.
there is sort of a body and an embodied language that can be just as powerful through physicality.
Hmm.
So I'm also wondering, Stephanie, from your point of view as a high performance coach, how would you recommend that people integrate more physicality into their lives in order to cope more effectively? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the first thing is that, I often come across people who sort of identify as one or the other. I'm more of an intellect, or I'm more of a gym rat. And I think what's really important to know is that we all have brains, we all have minds, and we all have bodies. So whether you identify as a gym person or identify as, a Zen Buddhist monk, we these are aspects to our species that we need to address, and how we address that is endless, right? We can choose to play tennis, we can choose to talk to a friend over the phone. There are many different ways to go about doing it. I think for those who are more of the intellectual overanalyzers, more drawn towards therapeutic practices with cognitive behavioral therapy or otherwise, or chatting with a friend about things, is that get rid of the archetype. You don't have to have a six pack or know what to do in the gym environment in order to be a physical being. You are already a physical being. So start with
Mm-hmm.
movements that make sense. And what matters is that embodiment, to feel where your body is in space, to feel what's going on in the body, and to really, embrace discomfort within the body. And in terms of what to actually do, a simple thing would be that 10,000 steps. Hook yourself up to a Fitbit or download the Apple Health app and literally just go for a walk. The body's meant to walk. There's a lot of great benefits to just something as simple as walking. And I think
Mm-hmm.
second to that is just choosing something that you like. It can be dancing, it can be yoga, it can be breath work, it can be something that you're in front of your mirror and you just do exactly what your body feels like doing. There doesn't need to be this attachment of whether you are a gym person or a physical person. And
Right. I think that's such a good point. Like, sorry, just, not necessarily having to label it, but just like being in touch with your body's intuition.
that's exactly it. And there's actually a practice of intuitive movement that I try to incorporate with anybody that I'm teaching. And what that means is just, we're in this state where everyone's always looking for a coach or someone to tell them what to do, literally down to left hand forward, right arm back. I think sometimes we're part of the problem, honestly, as coaches, where we're not helping people embody within themselves and empower them to feel their body and to be the captain of their body. People are often looking to others to tell them what's going on inside their body. One of my big pedestals, my soapbox, is to empower people from the inside and help people to recognize that they're in charge. And in order to be in charge, you got to feel comfortable with what's going on and be aware with what's inside. Intuitive movement is just literally kind of what it sounds like. It's doing what you feel when you feel like doing it. It's what happens when you hear a song and you start dancing. That's intuitive movement, and that's so important for well-being. So it doesn't have to be a 10K race. It doesn't have to be, a personal best in a bench press. It can be that, and that's actually really awesome for the body. Tracie, any tips that you may have for people who probably I see more than you, which is people who you mentioned avoidance. That's huge, huge, huge in my industry, where people are, running marathons every day to kind of process what's going on in their brain. They might have a really tough time at work, or maybe there's a lot going on at home, and they've turned to fitness as a way to discharge those emotions and to feel good, which is a healthy outlet. However, if it moves into that avoidance or becomes a numbing tool, it isn't really helping. So what would you recommend to those who I've got in my gym and who I speak to, who really say, I don't meditate, I don't want to talk about my feelings, I just want to do? Would you tell them on, what advice would you give them on how to be more?
Well, I would, emphasize that there's certainly nothing wrong with this particular strategy. In fact, it can be extremely effective and, very helpful. However, I would encourage people to just kind of take stock of maybe some of the underlying reasons as to why they're compelled to do a certain thing. And then, you're free to decide whether or not you engage in it. It's not necessarily the same level of avoidance of one is actively, intentionally choosing something. As long as we have some kind of awareness of, the ways in which we're wanting to respond to whatever the underlying emotional state is, that in itself frees us up to choose how we want to deal with it.
Yeah. I also would just add to that, that therapy is not as scary as it may seem. It's not about having these deep traumatic episodes come up that we're not ready to deal with. I think sometimes people think it's way more dramatic than it needs to be, and that, just like on my side, someone who's not physically inclined, we don't just do a back squat of 500 pounds. We don't just throw someone on a squat machine. We really take it easy and we work with the person. And I think that's what you do as well. You really, you just assess and take it one step at a time. And especially if someone's new to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, this has been fun. We're going to have more sessions like this, so stay tuned. You can find Tracie at the Center for Interpersonal Relationships. Their website is cfir.ca. You can find me, Stephanie Karlovits. Honestly, the best place to find me is on Instagram at Stephanie Karlovits, and also epicfitnessottawa.com. Thanks for joining me, Tracie. This was fun, and we'll do it soon.
My pleasure. See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.